Welcome, everyone, to the Voices of a Black Man. My name is CK James, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with none other than Mr. Brentley Wright. The Voices of a Black Man is a platform to help humanize Black men, for them to be able to tell their story through their lens. As I looked around in society today with all that's going on, I heard the narrative of the Black man being told, but one thing was missing. That one thing that was missing, the Black man telling his own story. So today we have Brentley Wright with us. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. How you doing, my sister?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you for being with us today. I like to just jump right into the conversation.
That's why I like
Um, and the first question I have for you is, why was it important for you to be a speaker to tell your story through the Voices of a Black Man's platform?
why was it important for me to be a part of this platform? Great question. Not only because you asked me about it, and anything you asked me to do, Sherelle, I got your back 1000%. First and foremost, I want everybody to know you have a serious spirit of excellence. I have been checking out the videos, and then just your execution and follow-up of the strategy to put together this. I am so very impressed with you. Know how I feel about you as a person, especially your husband as well. You guys are both just great gems in the earth, and so you are one of the best humans I've ever met.
Thank you.
And I mean that
Now
with
I have
all
to
of
live
my
up to
heart.
that.
Yeah, I mean that with all of my heart. And so coming on this platform was a no-brainer to me. Even though there's a lot in my story, I can't give it all, but just to support what you were doing. And then essentially, I want to share my story for my generation and those coming after me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So thank you so much. So let's just talk about young Brentley. Where did he grow up? Where is he from?
Yeah, I'm from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. I was, of course, my birthday is 11/9/85. And so growing up in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and then our family moving to Texas, Marshall, Texas, for some time. And then we made a transition back to Rocky Mount as a family. We grew up in a single parent household. It was my brother and my two sisters. And so my mother was raising us. And so she decided to get another job in the insurance industry. And so by doing so, she ended up moving us to Lawrenceburg, North Carolina, where I met most of my friends. So I would say all of my real childhood and high school years were in Lawrenceburg, North Carolina, Sherelle. And that's where I met the bulk of my friends, had the bulk of my experiences. And so being there is where I had the opportunity to play ball. I had the opportunity to make a lot of friends. I wasn't a great student per se because I just didn't really care about school. But I was a great friend. I was a great party guy, right? I love the ladies. And so part of that was my story. I never really dived into drugs or anything like that because I was just 100 pounds and scared to go to jail. Okay, so my picture of being in jail was not what I wanted to be. And so I never dialed into that. And then, of course, for those who really know me, growing up in the church, we were people of faith and our people of faith. So the church was the bulk of my experience. We created a lot of relationships as well. And so I just wanted to be a preacher. I just wanted to be an entrepreneur because that was a great attraction to me as well. And I struggled a lot with an identity crisis because I didn't know at that time how to foster or harness who I needed to be, right? I was a gifted young guy, could do a lot. I have a lot of talent, but I didn't know how to harness that well. And so what drove me, Sherelle, was a critical point in my life where I was listening to a guy preach at our church, and he was preaching lights out. I mean, the congregation is going crazy. And I remember wanting to be a preacher. So when I'm looking at this guy, I see what he's doing. He's communicating the text. And so I said, I want to be just like that guy. I need that, right? And at that time, I just, maybe thought of it as an anointing per se, right? But really, maybe God was using him at that time. And so I remember taking in his preaching and that experience, and he said something that struck a chord with me and started a different trajectory for my life. Mm-hmm. And he talked about how he had been on drugs. He talked about how he had been in jail. He discussed his womanizing ways. He discussed all of these faults that he had went through in his life. And I'm sitting in the chair, Sherelle, and I'm like, well, if I want anointing, then I have to at least go through some of that. Mm-hmm. I'm a church boy, cool, calm, collect, got friends. I'm not cut from that cloth. I'm not cut from that life. I didn't grow up in the hood. Mom and dad did the best they could for us, but we didn't have to experience that. And so how do I get it? How do I go about this anointing? And so I left the building that day, church that day, and said, in order for me to get that, I need to insert my life into those areas. And so part of my testimony is I became rebellious because I thought that it would yield me a bigger anointing. I started treating women the way that I did. I started smoking marijuana, drinking during school. I barely graduated high school, because I felt like this had to be a part of my story, and I didn't really embrace who I really was. And so, long story short, after about age 25, 26, I started coming into my own. And that's when I believe God really closed that gap, closed that hole into being a good, understanding who I really was in him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep. That's interesting. I mean, that's very interesting to say that I need to go through these things to get to this level. Yeah. When really that's not who you were at all, but inserting yourself into those types of things because that's what kind of what you felt or what you heard or saw that someone went through to get to the other side of it.
And I caused a lot of pain, right? Yeah. I caused my mother a lot of pain. I caused my brothers and sisters a lot of pain. I set an example that was not right for them. And so now they are trying to overcome that. And now I have to make sure that, I set a new example. I gave pain to a lot of women, the aftermath of just talking right, stepping left, right? And I never thought how serious that was until later on in life. But yes, going that way, I had a lot of pain on my hands, a lot of bloodshed on my hands. Yes.
Let me ask you this. I want to stay right here for just a second. Being that wasn't your normal nature, but where you felt you were supposed to be. Yes. And I've heard this a lot of times talking to other people where because of what society says you should be or what you hear or what you see, you try to insert and go that way, right? Which is against the grain of actually who you are. How did you reconcile that within yourself during that time that you were going through that? Or was there any reconciliation that needed to happen?
Yeah, it was a lot of reconciliation that needed to happen because, my father had been evident in my life and present in our life, but not a continual presence. My mother and father had a divorce. And so the reality is what I'm dealing with are fatherhood wounds, right? And I'm dealing with fatherhood wounds. I'm dealing with men who I look up to, but they don't really do a great pouring into me. And so here I am as a young man with a lot of testosterone and a lot of identity crisis here. How can you really look within yourself to find an answer? Yeah. And so I remember coming to Raleigh because I wanted to start over. And I came to Raleigh 2005, and I was going to a school called St. Augustine's College. Mm-hmm. And my father was here in Raleigh, and I wanted to create a new relationship. And so that relationship put me on a trajectory with other brothers in my life who started to help reconcile what I needed to be. And there was one guy, I'll always share his what he was to me, but his name was Nasir. And I won't give his last name, but Nasir was the young guy that I always was able to be attached to, who was what I wanted to be. Mm. He was a model, right? So he was what I wanted to be deep down, a business person, a person that had some influence. And through our church, I was able to connect with him, and I started putting pieces together. And so I remember spending a summer with him one time, during the school year. And that's when I started seeing work. That's when I started to see him build a business. That's when I started to see his relationship with his father. That's when I started to see how he treated others in his life, even when he had great means or great influence. And so to see a model, Sherelle, is what helped me to reconcile the inner gaps that were in myself. And, and that means everything to me, because that guy, and Nasir, he was special in my life. And so as a matter of fact, shout out to Nasir. His birthday was yesterday. He turned 40. But he was one of the main instrumental people God used in order to help me put me on a path. And since I have met him, that has been the trajectory I've been on a steady and uphill climb.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing. So I hear you saying that role models, mentors in your life are important.
Yeah, because I think, I heard TD Jakes say something the other day, Sherelle, you can never be mentored past your model. Mm. So, you can be what you want to be and have a mentor. But if you never see it, mm-hmm. you can't get there. You can't even be mentored there. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what God knew I needed. He knew I needed someone who would be able to have serious practicality and execution. Yeah. From a young man who was highly visionary. I knew who I wanted to be young. I was highly visionary. I could do a lot of things. I had a lot of talent, but execution was a place, or practicality was something that I lacked. And then also healing is what I lacked. And through God's word, I became a better man of God and Christian, and got healed from some father wounds, and been able to forgive, and also create a great relationship with my father now. Mm. Yeah,
that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. I want to go back just a little bit. You talked about having siblings. How many, and where do you fit in the mix?
It's okay. So I have 3 siblings, and actually, 1, 2, 3. I have 4 siblings, 5 siblings. Yeah, it's 5. It's little Frank, it's Sammy, my sister Tia, Cether, and my brother Maurice. We call him Hodiah. Used to call him Hody, but Maurice. So 5 siblings. I'm the oldest of them all. And so, mom, because I grew up a single parent, and, mom is saying to me one day, it's time for you to go to work, because I need you to handle some load that we got. I need you to take care of your brother, right? And I'll take care of your sisters. And so that's when I started learning responsibility. But also, as a big brother, I did not at that time, I want to say shepherd, right? But I also want to say set a great example to them. And at the time, through my life and through what I was doing and going through, and how I was taking and bringing pain to my mother. So, now I'm on a track to be an example to them before I'm an example to anybody else, to have strong loyalty and dedication, just to show them that how we grew up, and the brother that you saw loves you, flaws and all, but is on a serious track to be a different example.
Yeah, yeah. So you grew up, high school, you talked about till around the age 25 is kind of where you started making changes.
Yes.
In your life. And so for 25 to now, what has that journey been like?
Oh my goodness. A lot of a lot of failures, but a lot of joys, right? And I've learned to not take myself so serious.
Mhm.
I've learned to let a lot of things go.
Mhm.
I am so hard on myself, right? I can be very hard on myself because I know where I want to be, Sherelle. I know exactly what I want to do. I know exactly how much money I want to make. I know exactly the business I want to build. I know exactly how many leaders I want to develop. And because I'm not doing all of that now, sometimes I can just keep my foot on the gas.
Mhm.
And so, that journey has been to ease up on yourself, learn to make markers and sequences in your vision and in your strategy. Uh, be easy. I was telling my wife the other day, Kelly, that even though I didn't have a full model of fatherhood within marriage,
Mhm.
I was listening to a pastor the other day say, it's okay. It's okay. You've done better than because you didn't have a model. You're doing okay. Your family is okay. Your children are okay. Your marriage is intact. And so I have to constantly remind myself since age 25, you need to be about purpose. You need to be about strategy and execution, but you also need to be about taking it easy and being restful and letting God dictate your life. And so that's the journey. It's the journey of fatherhood. I'm a father of two beautiful young boys, 13, Jaden. We had him in school. And so Jaden was my grace child, right? He was my grace child, helped me start to turn that corner of responsibility. Justice is our faith child. My wife and I did not know if we were going to be able to have a child, and then God decided to bless us with that, with His power, with Him, and He's just been a blessing. And I'm a husband. I wanted to always have a family, but from 25 to now, he blessed me with a wife, and we've been married coming on this year in August, 8 years,
Wow.
and we are happy. We are strong. We are tackling our life with purpose and just doing the best we can to make it a joy to be around one another. All of this has happened, from 25 to now. He's blessed me with a business. He's blessed me with vision. He's blessed me with great relationships, and it just continues to grow through my life. And so from 25 to now, I feel no pressure.
Mhm. Mhm.
I literally have no pressure in my life for nothing because, and I'm not saying that I don't feel tension,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
but some warranted pressure that we put on ourselves, I don't have any of that any longer. That's done.
Wow. So when you talk about pressure and you talk about responsibility, I can't help but go back to you being the oldest child in the household
Yeah.
and having to go to work to help out, and having to be responsible for siblings and making sure that even if you felt like you weren't the best role model, you were still there and you were big brother regardless, right?
Absolutely.
How has that played out in your life up to now? Just
Uh,
just starting at an early age with those responsibilities and kind of just being the oldest son, forget everything else, right?
yeah, great question. It has produced an insane work ethic
Mm.
and an insane response of a sense of urgency in my responsibility.
Mhm.
I often tell leaders, especially business owners, the day you got married and the day you had children will literally trump any idea, any vision that you have, because responsibility comes first.
Mhm.
And if it wasn't for my mother saying, go get a job to work, to help, I don't know if I would have the same work ethic. I hadn't always been able to put it together,
Mhm.
but it has created a sense of urgency in me to get things done and to live my life in a purposeful way that matters.
Mhm.
I don't have time for a lot of foolishness,
Mhm.
right? You and I talk about this a lot. We don't have time for a lot of foolishness. We don't have time to do a lot of get-togethers. We're
Mhm.
young, and if you don't understand that in your younger years, if you don't work hard, provide, and take care of your family, then when your latter years come, there will be nothing there to divide. And so by my mother putting that work ethic in us to get out, go to work, I'm not giving you everything. If you want it, work for it. If you want it, work for it. Then essentially that's what it's going to have to be. And so I love her for that. I hated her for it because, you know, I I remember one time I had like a $650 check, right? So she's like, you know, let me see your check. And I had my cash in my hand, and I remember her giving me back like 150. Right? But I knew what it was. I knew what it was for. And it hurt when you're young. But my goodness, how that principle has played out now. And so, yeah, I would say that's probably one of the most important lessons, because I often share as well, the greatest gift you're going to give your children, in addition to parenting and love and mercy and grace, those attributes, you're going to give them the ability to work. Because essentially what they're going to do is have to go out in the world and work, add value. And whatever they want to be, you got to show them. You have to show them. And that's one of the things I learned, especially staying with Nasir. It was, I saw him get up. I'm sleeping on the couch, but I know he's going out of the door at 5 o'clock in the morning, coming home at 8, 9 o'clock at night from building the business. I know he's bringing hamburgers to the contractors on the job site, right? He's in real estate. So I knew exactly what he was doing. So that also crafted the responsibility of a work ethic in me as well. I didn't know it at that time, but that seed that was coming along in me has started to sprout now. And so, you know, I would say responsibility, most and foremost, has been probably one of the most profound things from that time.
Wow. So now when we talk about growing up as a young man, when was the first time that you realized that you were not just a young man, but a Black young man? And what did that mean to you?
When your mama say, boy, I'm about to beat your black behind. You know, what people don't know, I mean, that is so true, but then what people don't know about me, I was actually picked on a lot. And so a lot of people always were saying to me, you know, Brent, look at Brent, Black A, you know, or you know, all the time. So, you know, I'm fairly dark skinned, so it is what it is, you know, and especially moving to Lawrenceburg, North Carolina, that's when I really caught, you know, I'm a kid in my town, so I really caught a lot of heat. And I was always reminded of, you know, color, and I knew like I was, you know. I never had an incident where, from a racial perspective, that it growing up young, that, you know, I knew it allowed me to know that I was a Black man, but it was just my friends, you know. It was just moving to a new territory where you know, school kids were just picking on me. I mean, they were going in. I remember walking in the gym, and this guy named Brian, we're great friends today. We played ball together, but he would be shouting. It was 8th grade, so he would be shouting across the gym, look at Brent, Black A. Look at that big nose, Black boy. I mean, they would be going in on me. And so that's where I learned, you know, to get my joke game up and all of that. But at the end, that's how I knew that really you're a Black man. And then years ago, I'm going to say about several years ago, maybe 6 to 8 years ago, I'm in the construction industry. Now, here's why I know it was real from other multiracial communities working in the workplace. I remember being in the construction industry, and I worked my way up from the warehouse to inside sales coordinator. And out of a 175 member organization, I was the only Black inside sales coordinator. And so, naive as I don't know what, I didn't really look at it as a diversity and inclusion problem, right? Or, you know, maybe tokenism, affirmation, you know, affirmative action type stuff. So I remember one of the salesmen that I was working with, I was talking to him about life, and we were also talking about the job. And he said something. He said, Brentley, you know what? You all right. You just the wrong color. That's when I knew that it was a different ball game. It was a different ball game. that I'm in a different world. And then still not knowing how to really take that comment, I take it to my heart, but I still be quiet because I know I got a job to do. I got a family to feed. And so responsibility always comes back up for me. But now, you know, that's when I knew I was really a Black man.
So you hit on two things there. Number one, just inside of the Black culture, the Black race, there's distinction
Yes.
between different shades of Black.
Yes.
And there's a lot of stories that I think a lot of people outside of our race may not know or understand, that go back to slavery and different things of that nature, where the light skin were separated from the dark skin, and light skin put in the house and the dark skin in the
Yeah.
field, and
House
good
Negroes,
hair
street
and bad
Negroes.
hair and all kinds of things
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
into play with that. So it's interesting that your first encounters kind of with being Black were from the kids, from your friends, more
Yes.
so than from outside. But
Yeah.
then getting into the workforce and then learning, I thought I was playing one game and I thought these were the rules for everybody,
Right. Right.
right? Go
Right.
to
Right.
school, get a job, do your best,
Correct.
you know, be polite and do what you're supposed to do and show up. And
Correct.
that we're all on the same playing field, to find out that, oh no, there's two playing fields
Yes. And they're not equal.
at all.
They're
Not
not
equal.
equal. Yeah, they're not equal. And it's sad that it has to be that way. I don't like it, right? I don't like it. I don't like our past. I don't like how it is still prevalent today, right? But it's prevalent in ways, Sherelle, that we're not even paying attention to. And when I say paying attention to, meaning we are not going after policy. We are not going after regulation. We are not going after governmental institutions and organizations. I remember I'm on the Diversity and Inclusion Council at work, and a lot of the African Americans want to talk about our plight as minorities, our plight as African Americans. And I said, well, there's two ways you have to look at that. Number one, you got to look at it in the world itself, humanity to humanity.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to look at it in our current lens, which is the workplace. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And our plight highlights other plights. So the plight of African Americans also highlight the plight of lesbian and gay. It also highlights the plight of Muslims. It highlights the plight of the transgender, right? And so we can't just focus on our plight. But then if you go out into the world, you can just focus on your plight, right? Our plight, and be gung-ho about it, be Black Panther about it, be very serious about it. But if you never go to the place where the organizations or where the real power sits, which is in policy, governmental positions and offices and seats, then we don't have a chance to mobilize our community forward. And I believe that what I see is a lot of talk about these issues. I see a lot of talk about what we should do. And the reality is we have to bring solutions to our own community. We have to bring solutions into having more people in governmental seats, which means that now don't go to school to be a doctor, go be a lawyer, go be a person who wants to work in the government, etc., to change. We need more policy-driven minds out there, or collaborate, etc. And so it is important to not just talk about it, Sherelle. It's important to feel your history, know your history, have it inculcated in your heart, but then also know we're not the only plight in the world, because essentially we have to work with others. So we need an inclusive environment that says, I see your difference, you see my difference, let's respect one another. There doesn't have to be 100% agreement there, but by God, we have to work together in order to respect one another and value one another. That is when change happens. There are also things I see in our community always able to point inward. So I look at our plights as African Americans, and I say, okay, I see our overall plight. What happens if how do I change that? I go inward first. How do I close the racial economic gap? Well, I start with my own family. I increase my value to bring in more funds. I place a succession plan in place for my family. I've closed that gap. Many of us don't close the gap personally to where you have full effort, full control over. And so then you'll be able to go out and make a great contribution to your community and to others. And so I think when you speak of this, it ignites a fire in me, but it also brings strong awareness to what we have to do as our own individual self first. Yeah.
So starting with the man in the mirror first.
Yes.
And then spreading out from there.
You have to. If you don't, then you're shortchanging your family. And that is my main message, what I'm about. My wife, who I took under my leadership. My 2 children, we had those children. And so that is my, I never really focus on things that I'm not going to give an account for, Sherelle. Right. I really believe I'm not going to give an account to God for how much money we make. I really don't. I believe he's going to say, well, how are you as a son to me? How are you as a husband? And then how are you as a father? And so those 3 always drive my motivations, right? They drive the work. And so that's what we have to look at when you're standing in that mirror. Did I do for those I'm actually in charge for first? Don't feed any other kid until you feed your own, right? And so I think that's important. I go on a tangent on that.
No, you're totally fine. You're absolutely fine. So what do you talked about being a father, and being a husband. As you look at the world today, looking at when you grew up and things that you've encountered in your life, and then looking at your sons growing up now, because you have 2 boys, and things that they were encountering in their life, where's your hope and where's your fear?
Great question. My hope is that they will be adders to society. My hope is that they will be able to process what is going on in the world they're living in and see value in it. Don't block themselves from moving forward. I pray that, they don't use hope as a tactic, but they're actually on the front lines and making something happen and bring solutions. My fear, though, is even with myself, let's take recent shootings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. I mean, we just go down the list of how African-American men and women are being hunted down and killed. It's placed in me the urgency of mortality. I don't even know if I'll make it to 50. I want to. I pray I do. I don't know if I'll make it to 50. And so if I feel that way just in my heart, I pray my sons outlive me. My fear is that they won't. My son is 13. He lives in Charlotte. I'm not around him 24/7. He's hanging out with friends. He's good to make his own decisions, but I don't know if my son one day is walking down the street and the cops pull up and he's 13 and he's gone and I'm still alive. So I want my sons, my fear is that they won't outlive me. And that is what I don't want to happen. My other fear is that they won't be embraced. That they won't be embraced. And maybe for their leadership style, maybe for their value hopefully they add. I want my sons to be embraced in their generation. And so if they're not embraced in their generation, I don't know what that does for them psychologically, emotionally, even physically. I don't know. And so that's my fear. And then they won't be able to live the way they want to live. That's another fear of mine. And they won't be able to keep up with society and how society standards are going, from workplace to education, right? It's changing so much. So I pray. There are a lot of fears I carry. I want them to be able to compete, Sherelle. I want them to. I want them to be able to compete. I pray that everything I'm doing right now will at least give them a chance. Do I have to die early in order for that to happen? I'm worth more dead than I am alive. So will the Lord take me home early so they can have a chance, so they can compete in society? And I'm trying to reconcile that thought right now. And so, those are some fears that I'll unveil.
Yeah, yeah. So you talk about wondering if you make it to 50 or if your sons will outlive you. And I want to be clear about what you're saying.
Yes.
That has to do not do with your lifestyle of doing something or choosing wrong choices, or or their lifestyle of choosing wrong choices, but just being Black men
Just being
who
Black.
happen to encounter the wrong person.
Just being Black. Just being Black. There's so much anger in the world. Everyone is on edge, right? You don't know what is actually going on in a person's thought. We don't know if environments of psychological safety have been created and fostered well. And so, I think about, let's talk about, COVID-19 or the mask deal, when you're required to wear a mask when you go to an organizational place to pick up something. And a security guard asks you to put your mask on. You say no, you're upset, and you leave, you go get your friends and your buddies, they get upset, and they come back and they shoot you. And you're dead. Black father with children.
Just doing your job.
Just doing your job. You're just doing your job. Or so many other cases that way. And so being Black is one thing, that's a threat you have to deal with. Police brutality is a threat that we have to deal with as Black men. Our weight in society in carrying the burdens of the world and the burdens of our family in society is another threat you have to deal with. Bearing the responsibility to mobilize your family to receive the generational inheritances to the fourth and fifth and sixth generations is a threat to being Black. And so how do we deal with all of our historical data, all of our historical experience, and live in a time where we're able to progress, in a time where we're able to do what you got to do to put food on the table, build a business you got to build, etc., but then also think about it in the near future and be long-term about it. All of these things is this tension that we have to live with. And it just, being Black doesn't afford you a lot of support.
Do you feel like the rules keep changing and the goalpost keeps moving?
I do. I mean, it's a moving target 24/7. My best friend just asked me a couple of days ago, he said, Brent, do you think that all of these jobs that, these organizations are giving the Black men and Black women now, especially the diversity and inclusion, seats, right? Do you think that once we go back to a some normal, that these organizations are going to say, give me my position back? That we're only doing this just for the next year and a half. You came in and you taught us about being a diverse organization. You helped us for some inclusive efforts. We dealt with equality, we dealt with equity. We talked about competent hierarchies. We dealt with unconscious biases in the workplace. We got rid of the bad people. Now, because you did that, thank you. Here's your check. Go somewhere. And I said, man, that's an interesting question. I hope not. I hope not. But it is a moving target. The way it's a moving target is through laws, through policy. And so that's where we have to have more strong or indigenous African American leadership in those positions so that moving target can eventually stand still.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like in some instances, not all, we're not putting all companies in the same box, but in a lot of instances, it feels like they're checking a box right now because this box needs to be checked.
Yeah, and I say that because companies are doing it or organizations are doing it, Sherelle, but if you never hear from the CEO mm-hmm. or the founder mm-hmm. on why this is important, then it could seem as if it's a check, you're checking the box, right? No matter how hard you're fighting for equality, mm-hmm. no matter how hard you're fighting for equity, mm-hmm. If the founders, if the people at the top, the executive team at the top are not making an intentional effort to come down, deal with middle management, to come down. I just recently read Brain Power, vaulting the color bar, and she's dealing with progression in organizations through sponsorship, not mentorship, but sponsorship. Wow. And now we have African Americans, Black women who are minority, double minorities, Muslims, the gay, lesbian, transgender, Asians, all represent a minority and less than 15% representation of sponsorship. Wow. So how do you break the glass ceiling? Yeah. So if leadership is not looking at, okay, this is a serious problem. Founders, we're going to address this. I'm going to come off the chairman chair and make an intentional drive into this. And you'll see me until you get sick of me, until this organization changes from the bottom. I don't care if we multi-billion $billion corporation or $1 million corporation or $1 million corporation. It must be that way. And so, it could be a moving target for real. Checking the box.
So when you think about you think about your sons. Rather than just being seen for a Black man, what would you hope people would take the time to see other than just Black man?
Beautiful human beings. Beautiful human beings. Great. I love it's a kind of a scripture I hold on to, but Paul the apostle in 1 Corinthians 15 is he's talking about Jesus, and he wraps it up in this way. He says that eventually he says he's a life-giving spirit, right? And when the world sees my sons, I want them to be able to see life-giving spirits. I want them to see the smiles. These boys are charismatic. These dudes have some of the best spirits that, young men can ever have. And they're not trouble guys. They are serious. They're Gen Z and whatever else. And so, I want them to see a beautiful human that can add to society, be valuable, be friends, and get the job done. That's what I want the world to see. Yeah. Hopefully me and their mama can make it happen. We got to do our job as parents,
Yeah.
It starts in the home.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's talk about profession. Kind of how'd you get into the profession that you're in? What influences you had in your profession? And I'm going to start right there because I got like 20 million questions, but I'm going to just start with those. How'd you get into the profession and kind of influences that got you there? Because I'm sure it's not where you started out from the beginning.
No.
Or is it?
No. I mean, I knew sales would be my thing. I started sales in college, went into the retail industry. I was working for, you may know about this company, Sherelle. Remember Suncom?
Yes.
Okay, so I was working for Suncom. That's when the whole T-Mobile merger happened and T-Mobile took over. So I was up under that banner as well in regards to that retail transformation. So sales was my thing. I knew I could sell. Mom was selling, dad sells. I mean, that's just really in our blood. You know what I mean? And so I knew sales would be it, got into the construction industry and then moved into inside sales coordinator work. But then there's this thing going on, this inner war where I'm not really peaceful there. I'm like, I don't want to do the work. I don't want to do this anymore. And probably from some of the experience, and like I say, no model, I don't know. But there was this guy who hit me on LinkedIn named Sam Shrugs. And Sam hit me he was a recruiter for the financial services industry. Okay. So I'm like, I don't want to do state. I don't want to go through all those tests. And it doesn't really make me excited. I'm a people's guy developer. So Sam hits me. I'm like, nah, doc, don't worry about it. I'm good. In a very professional way, I'm good. He keeps coming back, Sherelle. Keeps coming back. So I said, well, let me give it a shot. So long story short, I go get my license. I start working for a company called Western and Southern Life Insurance Company. I'm an insurance agent. I'm in the profession. So they start talking about, don't just be an insurance agent. What I need you to be is a good financial professional. But we were always focused on insurance products or insurance training. Well, eventually I ended up becoming a broker. I left the company, started my own company, and became a broker. I worked for the people. But it was an influence that I had by a guy named Arkell Barnes, Michael Lindsay, so many guys. Mike, who was my first guy, my father, even my mother. I began to be legacy. But Arkell said something to me that I'll never forget. Arkell said, I need you to be a professional for real. I said, what do you mean? He says, you need to learn taxes. You need to learn budgets. That makes you more dangerous when you're sitting across the table from people. It helps you become more strategic in the planning for insurance. And so I'm sitting there blown away. I'm a young agent. He's been in the game, 25, 30 years, something like that. And so I started to really love this industry from that perspective. So my profession is what I do is I run a financial services firm. We're independent. We're able to work with a lot of other carriers to help meet the needs of, any kind of family from any socioeconomic background. We really like to work with whether you're in the ministry per se or you have a business. We love to kind of handle those who have both of those things going on and kind of interlock, right? Because you have a lot of responsibility. So that means the more valuable you become, you got to kind of cover the back cost of that. So we work in that space. And so it's been a joy getting in this space, learning this space, and putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. I did not have all of the knowledge I needed to run a business. I didn't. I've been trying to make this post. I'm going to make this post. I'll probably do it today. But the post is going to be it's going to say all passion at some point will have to be placed in a system, right? And passion is is enough fuel to get you to one destination. That's it. Eventually, you have to create an engine that is well-oiled and that can get you to multiple destinations. And so at first, I ended up running out of passion, ran out of gas, which eventually put me back into the workplace because I just didn't have the tools. And so being in the organization that I work for, in addition to running my own company, I have learned the principles of what it takes to run an organization, how to lead an organization, build a team. It's taught me leadership. It's taught me policy, procedures. It's taught me budgeting. It's taught me so much that now had transferable skills into my own business, which has made us a bigger success than I ever could have been in the first place. And so when I look at work, that's just what I look at it. I got two businesses right now. Elon Musk has Tesla and SpaceX, and Jeff Bezos got Amazon and Blue Origin, and Puff got Ciroc and Revolt, and I just got what I got. And, you know, and I'm learning, I'm having a great time in this profession that eventually I'm just being molded into a business person. So that is my profession that I enjoy, business. Yeah.
Nice, nice, absolutely. You know, there's a quote that you posted today that I want to talk about, and I want to talk about it because you said that you were still working on this on the inside of kind of mulling around. And since I had you today, and it was posted, I believe today, I was like, I can bring this up. So I stopped you today.
Uh-oh.
And so at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, am I more interested in outcome of this organization, or I'm more interested in the experience I get to have leading it?
Isn't
And
that
that was
cold?
by, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Patrick Lencioni. I hope I'm saying the last name right.
Yeah, you
But
got it.
I want to say it one more time. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, am I more interested in outcome of this organization, or am I more interested in the experience I get to have leading it? Talk to
Yes.
me
Yeah.
about being a leader in this quote, and why is that
Yeah.
mulling around? Why is that in your system, Mike?
Because I thought about, we're great with outcomes, right? We're great with vision. But if you look at, if I'm solely dedicated to making sure this organization succeeds, if I have marching orders to get 1, 2, and 3 done, then what's going to happen is I'm going to literally have so many casualties on my journey to produce that outcome, to produce a $1 billion business, to produce whatever else that looks like from a successful view, whatever that outcome is. Outcomes are important, but they're not extremely more important than actually the leadership that it takes to get to the outcome. And so what I guess it was sitting on me so much because I said, okay, Brent, am I focused on just the outcome? Right? Am I just focused on having Brentley Financial 50+ year business? Am I so focused on making sure this other organization is run properly that I miss developing talent? That I miss developing, having critical conversations of empathy towards those who were leading the organization, and that I miss having a joy of producing the work it takes to get to the outcome, right? And I'm not sure. The easy answer is, yeah, I love the latter, leading it, having the experience. But I'm not sure that everyone is really reflecting that in their behaviors. I'm not sure that we're just being very relational rather than transactional. I just think that we are just, so many executives today are looking at the scorecard. And the scorecard is, the scorecard is so easy because it points to yesterday's data. That's easy. But tomorrow has a lot of uncertainty. The only thing you can think about for tomorrow is the outcome, but it's full of uncertainty. So I love the joy of leading and having that experience when we can hire people, not just to hire them to fill a position. Henry Ford said, I asked for a pair of hands and I got the whole person. That's what when I think about that quote that I read by Patrick today, I literally go into that as well, because this week I go into that because I'm not just getting a pair of hands. I'm getting a person who's a wife or a husband, has children, trying to make a better life like me. I'm going to literally think about the metrics and really miss building a relationship and hearing what they want to do and what they want to be, or their goals. So we need to have a lot of course correction in how we're actually leading these organizations. I believe outcome is important, but it's not nearly as important as really taking the time to develop talent that's helping you get to the outcome. Because you don't get there by yourself.
Yeah.
You're making major contributions. Yep.
So can we expand that to a broader platform outside of organizations to society as a whole?
Absolutely. I think let's just talk about where we're at right now. Let's just deal with multiracial unity, right? I love the church. So let's deal with Dr. Corey Edwards is dealing with something, who's a professor. Was a professor, but now she's like the head of a sociology department. And she deals with power and race structures in the church. And so I'm gonna tear this quote up, but I'm gonna just paraphrase. She's saying that if you go to an all homogenous church, then you're bordering the line of treason when it comes to racism. So an all black church is producing racism. An all white church can produce racism. We're still the most segregated. That's still the most segregated hour. The outcome is supposed to be, from a biblical perspective, all nations. So do we even have an all nations representation? White, black, Indian, Muslim, etc. So if we don't have that outcome, then if we're not focused on the outcome, then what we're doing is we're just going to be homogenous. We're going to have casualties. We're going to let our children grow up in organizations that don't see white, that don't see Islam, that don't see transgender, that don't see gay, that don't see differences. They're not inclusive, right? There's no equality there. If we're looking at marriage, if the outcome of marriage is 50 years, but I don't really put a lot of intentional efforts into actually us enjoying one another, then those are going to be some hellacious years to get to 50. That means I can just talk to you how I want to talk to you, treat you how I want to treat you, disrespect you as a person. I don't even recognize your value, even in how you were created. On our 50-year journey, then I'm going to have a casualty of not even knowing who you are if we get 50 years plus, right? If it's children, raising your children, if the outcome is to just say, I want my children to go to Ivy League school, I want to give them the best education they can, I want to give them I want to give them everything that I didn't have, but yet you didn't develop your children to be decent human beings, to respect people. I love what I heard Dr. R.A. Vernon say when it comes to people. And he was dealing with racial unity. He said, listen, everybody I meet gets an A. It's up to you to maintain your grade, your A+ average. You get that. So when we're dealing with the outcome is unity. But in order for that to happen, the experience that we have to have leading it is, man, the white person that I meet, you get an A. Right? The gay person that I meet, you get an A. Yeah, we can go eat some lunch together, no matter what may be perceived from other people around in the restaurant. You my friend. We're not together. We're inclusive. And there's so many other areas that you roll into, but if you're looking at the outcome and saying, this is what we want to do, or this is what we want to be, our family has this tradition, or whatever the case may be, it don't have casualties and don't overlook the necessary efforts that the effort means that it is a price you pay for improvement. What improvement are you having towards the outcome? And that means we have to have an intentional eagle eye in how we develop. I think we're always developing people, and so ourselves, our spouses, our children. And so just focusing on the outcome definitely hurts the journey or cripples the journey to a successful outcome.
So you mentioned something that I've not heard anyone talk about, and that's you mentioned it in the church of being homogenous, meaning all one race, black, white, Asian, doesn't matter. And I'm going to take that past the church to a homogenous life. A homogenous life where when you look around, everybody looks like you. And then we go to work, right? We go to work and then we're told that we have to be diverse and
Yeah.
inclusive. And I
Yes.
guess the question would be, there's what you're bringing up is, how can you be diverse and inclusive if that's not even a representation of your life, in society?
Um, uh, Dr. Brian LaRich says that, and I'm gonna tie it back to what you're saying. They said, look, man, if people come to church mainly for relationships, then the congregation is a reflection of the dinner table.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I love it. I love it.
So listen, if I don't have, personally, I've even been checking myself. Brent, how many white friends do you have?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How many uh gay, transgender people do you really have in your life that you really understand their perspective
Mm-hmm.
outside of a book? Right? Uh who have you introduced your children to? Right? The neighbor across the street from me is white, a brainiac. I'm supposed to, keep getting with him, and I've been pushing it off. Right? Those are messing up my diversity efforts. And so what we see is we are not being intentional to inviting other communities in our story. And here's why. Personally, I've learned within myself, I have only looked from one lens, and that has been the Christian lens. That everything I did, Sherelle, was from that perspective. So as of recently, I'm still a Christian. I love the Lord. I love his word. But that's no longer my first lens, because it allows me to take off my judgmental lenses, my glasses, my judgment glasses, to say, oh, this guy's a Buddhist, right? Let me not really talk with him. 1 second, Sherelle. Can you hear my charger? I'm not really keen on, inviting a person who is an Indian person. I met a beautiful Indian person the other day, Miss Powell, right? And so I was looking at her and talking to her, and I said, she's a restaurant business owner, et cetera. I said, Miss Powell, I want to get to know you. I want to get to know you. You've been in business a long time. You're doing, you've been great. And I'm just plugging up so I don't go dead on you, Sherelle.
Absolutely.
And so I said, I really want to get to know your story. I've never been that way. I've never been that way because of theological issues. And I've always saw that first. And so I don't want to be homogenous in my life no more. I don't even want to attend anything. And I'm trying to reconcile this now. Attend anything that's homogenous. It's not a great reflection. It doesn't do me good. It doesn't do our family good. It doesn't do our children any good. So I'm breaking down those lenses within myself just to be transparent. I just have always thought that way. I don't know if I've ever seen the world right, Sherelle. I don't know if I've ever looked at the world correctly outside of that lens because of my faith. How strong my faith was and how it was growing up. But, I wasn't taught life skills. I wasn't taught how to really deal with people. Right. And if I was, it was your own people. I don't know if an all-black firm is what we need to aim for today. How do we help those in other communities? Right. So I'm not seeing pictures of an all-black attorney firm, an all-black financial services firm. I'm like, how do you speak to other communities? And that's not the answer to just continue to say, let's continue to shop all black and be this and be that, or be all white and let's be like the Jews. I don't think that works in a world that is very diverse. And so, yes, your question, being homogenous has hurt me, I think, a great deal. and not being homogenous has advanced me a great deal. It's advanced me a great deal. Here's what I say about it too, because I remember when I first got in business, and a guy said to me, Sherelle, he said, someone who I look up to, he's a VP at a company. He said, look, you're not going to be as successful as you want to be until you learn how to do business with white people. And we're on a golf course, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that insight. I know what he's saying. Right? I know what he means. If you don't learn how to cross cultural lines to do business with all communities, you won't be as successful as you think you will be. And that causes us, Sherelle, it causes us or demands of us that you become more professional, right? That you study your industry more. You study your market better. Let's be real. If I have a client who's white, I don't talk to them the way I would a client who's black. Because I'm pretty sure economics was a subject at the table from a white family than it was at a black family's table. And so some conversations are easier than the others. But if I address everyone that sits at the table with me from an economic perspective the same way, I'm in trouble. Because how hard I have to teach our African American community, I don't have to teach our white community as hard. Let's call a spade a spade. Yeah. See? And so, but being homogenous hurts me bad. It keeps you narrow-minded. It keeps you narrow in your friendships and relationships, and it's not a good thing. So I say all that to say, learn how to drink some good wine. Learn how to, you have to, because if you don't, you're going to cripple yourself tremendously for what you really want to do in life.
I got to go here.
Okay.
So what would you say to someone in the African community that would say, you're selling out?
I would say, I don't even know if I would address that, because listen, I would look at examples. So a guy like me, I'm logical. You gotta talk to me. I'm common sense, like real common sense. So I would say, well, have you spent your last dollars in the white community? Have you? Right? And the answer is going to be yes. That brand you got on right now, white person make it, black person make it. 9 times out of 10, you wearing a polo. Or 9 times out of 10, you wearing some Nikes or some Under Armours, right? So I would dismiss the conversation and say, I'm not selling out. I am for my people. I start on my side of the tracks. Yeah. But we're talking about being inclusive. That's my framework. That's equality for all. So I'm going to start on my side of the tracks. I'm going to make sure my people good. But what's wrong with John over here? He ain't done nothing to me. What's wrong with Sarah or who else in a different community? And so, if you're going to have real relationships, it's not just, I've only known one business case where he says he built it with black people. Tyler Perry said he built his business with black people. And then I look at his industry, which mainly entertainment. Right. Black folks love to be entertained. That's what we do. We're entertainers. A part of us anyway. Mm-hmm. But I know that there's been some investments, right? I read a Black Wall Street book about North Carolina Mutual life insurance company, 150-year-old company. Mm-hmm. There's tenets in there to say maybe Washington Duke gave John Merrick money to start North Carolina Mutual.
Mhm.
After all, he was his barber.
Mhm.
And John Washington Duke pushed John Merrick to start his own company when he already had 7 other businesses. Okay. And so I don't think you get very far without someone of resources helping you. Now you could be, and the question on the table is, how many people do you actually know with resources, substantial resources in your community that actually help you?
Which is a real question.
That's the question on the table.
Yeah.
And if you don't know many, then you're going to have to flow on the other side of the tracks. And so, no, I would not be selling now. I'll just be being me, being inclusive,
Yeah.
making sure we get the job done. Yeah.
What you're saying is not being this to this person and this to that person, being who Brentley Wright is,
Exactly.
but opening up your perspective, opening up your
Absolutely.
mind, opening up your heart to understand that at the human level, we
Yes.
all have commonalities and we're all human, and I can learn something from you just like you can learn something from me.
Absolutely. Sherelle, my background is ministry.
Yeah.
Most of my life, all I've learned was to give God praise, give him honor through tough times, bad times, good times. But I had not learned, I learned how to be a visionary, that God wants more for your life. I've been under all kinds of teaching, heavy theological teaching, or heavy visionary teaching, heavy prosperity teaching. And so all of that vision coming up in that, I don't have a problem giving anybody vision. I have a problem giving anybody any motivation. Where I have to work in seriously hard is in execution, building relationships and learning life skills, because that's what I did not have. So it's not that I want to do it just because I want to do it. I see where I've been just so capped. And it's like I'm breaking free, like a my son loves dinosaurs, so a dinosaur coming out of the egg, ready to go. Eagle jumping off the cliff, flying. Finally, that's what my mind is. It's so open right now. It's not fragile, but it's open. I told my father-in-law the other day. I said, "Man, I don't think I've seen the world right." And so he's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Listen to me, Brent. When I was in the military and we went to war, Sherelle, said, our job was to protect the United States of America. We fought for United States of America." He said, when you get back to America and you see all of the bickering, you see all of the racial tensions, you see all of how Americans are treating one another, from gangs, etc., and you ask yourself the question, is this the America I fought for? Because I didn't fight for Black people. I ain't just fight for white people. I fought for the United States of America. So when you get back and you see what you see, that puts a different perspective on things. So that's just where my mind is right now. That's where my heart is, not only from my personal journey, but who I am as a person. I'm opening up. I'm opening up. I'm getting cracked. The code is cracking in me. And I look forward to you cracking even more.
Yeah. Wow.
Great question.
I've enjoyed this conversation. I've got a round robin kind of quick fire.
Okay.
That I do with everybody. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So what's your favorite food?
Lasagna.
Lasagna.
Yes, I love it.
Favorite ice cream?
Butter pecan.
Favorite movie?
Gladiator.
Why Gladiator?
Man, that story is incredible because you are in position, you get knocked down, they send to kill you, you don't die. The thing that holds him is his family, right? And then you come back to avenge your family. what a story. So I just feel like my life is that. So a gladiator, I'm a fighter anyway. So yeah, gladiator is my
Okay.
favorite.
Favorite song?
Oh my goodness. Uh, I want to say it ain't my, I'm a music guy, Sherelle. I'm a musician. You can't do this one to me. Golly. The one that's coming to my mind right now is LL Cool J, I'm Bad.
What is it about that song? I love it. I love it.
It's just real. I just feel like when sometimes I just want to bust up into peace, man. It's just like,
Yeah,
here I am. Like, let's go.
I get it. I get it. It goes with the gladiator.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
It does. Favorite hobby?
Reading. Reading. Now, I'm replacing reading with chess.
Okay.
Yes, I've learned I'm learning the game of chess since Memorial Day weekend. I've really went serious in it. So I've been actually playing on tournaments online. I've got some wins. I got a lot of losses, but yeah, that's like my new hobby. It keeps me going.
What is it about chess?
Oh my goodness, I see why they say life is about chess. Um, every piece on the chessboard has a position.
Mhm,
And for me, I've always been big on play your position,
mhm,
play your role. And so every piece has a strategic and a strategy. And then the game itself, if you can control the center, pretty much you got the game,
mhm,
right? And you control the center and you set your defenses up and you set your offenses up. And it's just a beautiful game that has over 1,000,000,000,000 moves.
mhm,
The first two moves can be done 20 times by each player, times that by two, that's 400 moves that can be done for the first two moves in the game. And so an opening game, a middle game, and end game is what you need. And isn't that life?
mhm.
Opening, middle, end. So chess is brilliant. I wish I
Mhm,
would started sooner because I was actually scared to play the game.
mhm.
But now I conquered my fear.
Are you planning on teaching your sons?
I am. Yes. So he knows the sides right now. He knows the pieces.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question. Favorite vacation or destination spot?
I'm a mountains guy. So the we went to Boone Mountains. That was beautiful to me. If I could go to any mountain place that's just got a nice cabin resort to kick back, and I can enjoy some beautiful nature. I mean, that's me. That's me all day. I go to Dubai, whatever, and look at all that. All this, that's just Miami, whatever. That's trash to me. I want some mountains.
Want some mountains. And Boone is Boone, North Carolina, in the
Boone, North
mountains of
Carolina.
North
Yeah,
Carolina, Western North
yeah.
Carolina.
I want to get me a little spot out there. Something small
Nice.
out there.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. I have enjoyed this time. Oh my gosh. We get together and we can talk. And we have to make each other hang up the phone a lot of times when we get
We do.
together, we start talking. I really enjoyed this time. Brentley, I want to thank you for being on the Voices of a Black Man, sharing your heart, your wisdom, and your experiences, because I know that it's going to go further than just this conversation for people.
Thank you.
Um, I want to give you this time, the platform. Like I said, it's your platform. I want to give you this time, whatever's on your heart or on your mind that you want to speak to an individual, community, the world. It's up to you what you who you want to speak to and what you want to say. I want to sit back right now and just give you that time to
Yeah.
say whatever you want to say.
Thank you for allowing me on this show. This has been an incredible time. I've enjoyed it. I was nervous, and I don't know why I was so nervous, but I just had a wonderful time. And here's what I'll say. I want to speak to my own generation and those coming after us. You have, look at my son in the back. Come on, buddy. Say hello.
Hey.
Say hello. All right. Go back in the living room. Thanks, buddy. You have so much to do. You have so much to do, and you have a spot. You no longer have to rush to get to a position because of the generation you're in. If you focus the next 20 years of your life and develop in a crock pot method, you will do more good for your generation and those coming after you. Glean from the Xer and baby boomer generation, but they are not your generation to live in. You are a millennial, you're Gen Z, and you are here to help your generation. That's why you were born in this generation. Make your work the focal point, your generation, the focal point of your work, and those coming after you, and seriously develop your leadership skill. Add value to your generation, also add value to your workplaces and organizations, add value, bring solutions in your businesses, but make a serious effort to develop those coming after you. And I believe you'll have more success than anything. So I want to say you have a spot. You got a spot. Don't you good. You're all right. You don't have to work in the baby boomer generation. We good. So, but cook the next 20 years and see what happens for your life.
Brentley, again, thank you for sharing your heart, your wisdom, and your experience with us on today. Thank you for being on the Voices of a Black Man.
Thank you.
To the viewers, I'd like to say thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for listening to Brentley Wright tell his story through his lens. Now, you know what I always say. You've seen, you've heard, and you had a chance to just listen to a Black man tell his story. If there was anything in his story that hit you a certain way, that made you think about or bring up biases that you may have in your own life, well, the next part is up to you. It's the action part. Brentley talked about it today. Starting with the man or woman in the mirror first. What actions are you going to take for yourself first that then can be contagious and spread throughout your family, your community, and the world? I am CK James, and this has been the Voices of a Black Man. Until next time, which is tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, we look forward to seeing you then. But until then, have a wonderful evening. And remember, it's up to you and what you choose to do with what you have in this world. Take care.